Everybody gets to live the same
Tell
way
me
as
what
you.
rights we don't have, what laws that we don't have.
Girl, I'm gonna send you.
No, I
so
want to
much.
know. I want to know.
A+ community.
Welcome back to the channel. This is the Purple Political Breakdown, where we analyze, where we look at things without political bias, try to come up with solutions, have nuanced conversations, and obviously I'm going to lay out my personal opinion regarding the topics. We got a reaction video today. We're going to be reacting to Jubilee. Shout out Jubilee, even though they be copywriting my content, but we move. It is what it is. Liberals versus conservative lesbians. So let's dive right into it. I'm not going to react to the entire thing because it's an hour long, but I'll react to the conversation that seemed the most interesting. A lot of these topics seem interesting. I don't lie. We got, I would date a trans woman. I honestly don't care. I'm not going to react to that one. I don't understand how a lesbian can be conservative. Should be interesting. Probably should be taught in classrooms. Gay men are more socially accepted than lesbians. All right, I know the topics I'm reacting to. Let's dive right into it. I can tell who the liberals and the conservatives are.
100?
It's difficult because, you know, I think what was once like a very loving and accepted community has pushed so far to the left that, you know, we're...
She is conservative? Okay, respect. Not gonna lie, if I met her for the first time, I thought she would be a liberal. She got the liberal look. Shout out to her.
Seeing this massive pendulum swing that is coming back the other direction that is going to put our entire community, unfortunately, in danger because...
It already has.
It already has, because it has gone so far to the left rather than being a good common sense middle ground that now people who did not used to carry a prejudice against us or have an issue with our community are suddenly finding themselves to have prejudice against the LGBTQ community.
We have prejudice against ourselves.
That's true. Even I'm developing a prejudice.
Yeah, like I can't stand lesbians now. Like there are people here, and I won't call it individuals, but there are people here that I was friends with, that I literally went on vacations with, that have unfriended me, unfollowed me, just for simply standing up for young lesbians and gay men who are calling themselves all these other genders, or because I'm not for children transitioning, or just because I voted for Trump, you know, and it's a shame because we want to be, we don't.
I don't think I'll ever be able to get on the same page with like Trump supporters, but I need to just let it rock because I understand why, they think their way, even though I disagree how they got there, but it is what it is, you know, because they're not necessarily bad people.
Don't want to be, rather. We don't want to be.
They aren't bad people, not necessarily. They aren't bad people.
Like the whole point of being, one of the points of us being lesbians is that we're different. We have different outlooks on life. We have different talents.
I feel like with a lot of marginalized groups, the biggest downfalls to them is simply when usually outside groups create division, a left and a right. The left doesn't accept the right doesn't accept the left, and then that divides all of us. Instead of being one powerful group, it just crumbles. We're divided.
I think it's unfortunate that sexuality is tied to a, you know, political outlook to begin with. That is no longer like, oh, Republicans don't want gay people to exist. Like, that's not a thing anymore. And I think it's so unfortunate how politicized our entire community has become.
I think it's important to note that we're here calling ourselves conservative lesbians, but we're really, like, some of us aren't really conservatives. We're just non-leftists. And we haven't really moved. Like, people call me a grifter, whatever they want to call me. I haven't moved over the years. I've been stagnant. Like, I am set in my morals. I'm in my mid-30s. Like, I know where I'm at. And people, mainly the LGBT, whatever community, moved further and further left. I stayed where I was, and somehow I was the one that was ostracized.
Well, that's because what used to be moderate is now considered conservative. And what used to be your general liberal, which I think a lot of us at one point probably aligned ourselves with, is no longer that. It is so far past that, which, you know, I had to draw a hard line. I'm not with this anymore.
We all can have different beliefs. You can be this race and still think this way, or be gay and think this way. So it's just really sad to see. And I feel like, you know, our community has been used so much.
For the most part, I get along with conservatives because they definitely tend to have a...
For Palestine, really? Really? Go to Palestine as a queer person. See what happens.
Most days we were...
I tend to get along with conservatives quite well, for the most part. Like, the average conservative, even if they're a Trump supporter, Vivek supporter, can be conversed with. I just like some of the things I hear Trump supporters and Vivek supporters say, I just can't, like, I ideologically don't like align.
Conservatism itself means that you like the things that are going now, and that traditionally it's going good for you, for us. I personally disagree with that because of the things that I have been through. The discrimination from everyone, doesn't matter whether they're left or right or, you know, not part of the community, is not working for us. It's not working for me, at least.
Can I ask you a question? Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt.
Yeah, for sure.
You know how people on the left have redefined the word woman?
What do you mean by that?
A lot of people that identify on the far left, LGBT or not, have redefined the word woman to mean basically anything.
Yeah, I'm
So-
non-binary. I use they, them
So,
pronouns.
yeah, so there you go. Okay, so you have changed the meaning or the whatever, right? Conservatism is just the opposite of leftism at this point, as far as I'm concerned. So I just want to make sure that
So
that is
what are you
known.
saying the opposite of leftism? Could you?
The new age conservatives are really old age libertarians or like moderates or just classic liberals for the most part.
That's
So
a fair
I
thing to
just-
say at this point, not
just
gonna
to make
lie.
sure like we're on the same page a little bit. You
Yeah,
know what I mean?
exactly. So what I'm saying is that because we are growing, if you want to include more people, because technically the lesbian flag has changed to an orange stripe for non-men such as myself. I still identify as a lesbian. I'm still here
Can I ask you how you identify as a lesbian when you're not a woman?
because I'm a non-man. Because
That's a terrible definition, in my opinion, but that's fine. You're allowed to believe what you believe because I believe in freedom of speech. But
So I believe in including everyone. It doesn't matter what other people go by. I think that being left.
I'm gonna say this. These people don't really think this way. I'm gonna be very clear. The mindset that we include everyone is just an excuse to identify however you want and to be where you want to belong. That's fine. That is fine. But the verbiage is important. We include everyone. You don't include everyone. That is not true. That is not true. You include people who don't identify with the norm. You include the non-identifiable, if that makes sense. I just wanted to put that out there.
And having this conversation go to left means that we don't care anymore. Everyone can be a part of the community, no matter who you are. Labels don't matter as much as, you know, they did back then because it was only the LGB. When we're moving,
I wonder if
we're
an
moving
old
towards the,
white
you know, the future,
man said
including
I
more
want to be part of the
people.
LGBTQ
sometimes
community.
gatekeeping is a good thing, though. Yeah. And sometimes segregation is a good thing.
Why?
Well,
Why?
Well,
okay, so
No,
you're
I'm
saying
talking a lot.
oh, she recognized I'm talking a lot. Maybe I'm yapping. Segregation. There's a better way to phrase that. I see what you're trying to say, but there's a better way to phrase that.
you guys are accepting more, everything like that. So where's the line then? Because then we have
There is
straight
no line.
people. So then why have a community if everybody's in the community?
If you self-identify in the community, then we're all there for each other.
That doesn't mean, that's what I'm saying. It doesn't mean everybody's included.
I do not identify as straight. I identify as a non-binary lesbian because the lesbian community has accepted me.
So you don't want to
Because I
accept
don't feel
everybody. You
comfortable in
accept
my
everybody
gender
that
identity because growing
believes
up,
in your
I
identity.
didn't feel,
Like,
accepted in the
terminology is very
community.
important,
So
ladies
now
and
that
gentlemen.
We're moving left and we're accepting more people into it. I'm finally accepted in the community. People, actually do accept non-binary lesbians.
If you don't identify as a woman and a lesbian is a woman who loves another woman, then why would you not identify as queer? And yes, we're going to labels here, but like genuine curiosity, I'm trying to understand, because if a lesbian is no longer a woman who's sexually attracted to another woman, then a lesbian can be
Anybody.
Anything.
Anybody.
A man.
Which is literally
man.
what's happening
Yes.
in the world right now.
That's the problem.
Like
There
straight
has
up
to be-
dudes that are not trans women, straight up dudes going on lesbian dating apps
Oh, yeah.
and calling us transphobic and
Yep.
I think there's a bit of a gray area there. If sorry to interrupt, correct me if I'm wrong. But I'm under the impression that with non-binary lesbians, there's a bit
Is
of
she
a gray
Russian?
area because you can often have a very similar experience than a woman who is a lesbian being non-binary, because if you
Because we're all female? You could
well,
say
if
it,
you're
it's okay.
if you're assigned female at birth and you date women and you before you knew you were non-binary, you were all would imagine you were often in lesbian spaces and that's what you identified with. So why should you be excluded from that community just because now you know you are non-binary, for example?
I think, like, colloquially speaking, like, now we define lesbian as being like non-men loving non-men.
I think there's a very small subset of people that define it that way.
I just think
Yeah.
I mean, like, people that
I'm just
I
being
know.
honest.
Oh yeah, that's
No,
totally
it's
fine.
different
It's like
circles,
people who have,
different
yeah.
Kennedy is her
I
name.
think also, like,
Very
it's
interesting
always
name.
conformed around people.
I don't think I've.
being trans.
I
and
guess
being
Mr.
non-binary is
Kennedy.
not a new
Shout out to
thing.
WWE.
This has existed in like pre-modern society. It's not new. It's always existed, and language is always conformed around people. Like, we don't make things up and then people start identifying as them. Like, we conform language to fit identity, and like it's always been that way.
Although I do think people make up words and say that.
That's also
I'm
true.
sorry.
No,
they
that's
do.
also true. There's 100
a
genders now.
million genders that people have literally just made up. It did not
Frog,
exist.
frog, self.
What does it affect you? What other people?
We create words to associate with identities. That's true. But the words that are created with intended purpose and definition. So we can't just be changing things because words have value that we create for them when they're created. Okay? So if you want to create new words, that's a different conversation in terms of the value of the new words being created. But pre-existing words are there for a reason, to provide order and understanding on situations and who we are, which is why there's a confusion if someone says non-man and starts changing the definition of lesbian.
People identify.
I don't care.
If
I'm
they
just saying.
self-identify.
Yeah, absolutely.
Self-identify as a potato.
I feel like a very small group has become the example. There's a small group
She
of
got
left
swag.
and there's a small group of right that are louder than everybody else, and then everybody else is being forgotten.
Absolutely.
I think one thing that separated us is that I think you often, and I'm not trying to just point
She got chemistry with the other girl. Oh man, that's some juicy content, Jubilee. All right.
out, but since I am the friend of yours, that I can no longer support you because you don't support me, right? If you,
How don't I support
I'm
you?
explaining,
Oh.
right?
Don't make this a
Because
therapy
I believe
session,
that
'cause
when
she
you use
wants
your
to go
voice,
there.
You were coming from a place of privilege without realizing that the things that you were sharing were negatively attacking me and my lifestyle. You are able to have privilege because you don't show up like I show up. You're not a woman of color. You're not masculine. So it's easy for you to say, oh yeah, this is okay, but you're not realizing that you're forgetting me and my existence and what I might need. We're under attack. LGBTQIA plus
Who?
is under attack. We have 650 plus anti-LGBTQ bills attacking our existence. A lot of y'all talk about, it's mostly attacking trans kids, which we
Hopefully, this was not a problem. Okay.
all should be pissed. If anybody's attacking our kids, we should all be pissed. But 350 plus attacking the LGB, which y'all want to just emphasize and say everybody else doesn't count. It's this, but we are all.
I don't like it when people kind of make these very broad statements because it makes it bigger than it potentially actually is. So I always like to break things down because there's no way I'm going to believe that there are 300 bills attacking the LGBTQ. I just won't believe you. So let's break it down because we have to figure out what it means to attack the LGBT and do these bills equate to that definition.
All being attacked. And so for you to not see that is privilege. And I think that I just really need you to understand that.
Would you like to comment as a woman of color?
Yeah, absolutely. So what laws are affecting lesbian women of color?
In Florida right now, if there's a lesbian couple, because there's a lesbian couple that are going through this right now. Right now, if somebody calls the cops on a lesbian couple saying that they're being inappropriate, they could face jail time. Just for someone calling them and having to go through.
Children,
I don't know if that's
totally
true.
fine.
That is
If
true. It
that
is.
is, then you text me because I'll go to DeSantis
I've never
myself.
heard
It
of
is
that,
true.
and there's not many. I would love to hear all of these laws that are affecting me. As I am an American, and I have every right as everybody else does. I have nothing stopping me from getting married, owning my own
Inappropriate is such a vague term, because what do you mean by inappropriate? What? I don't even know what that means.
home, starting my own business, nothing.
Raising kids.
That's
having
privilege.
How is that privilege?
But
How am
she's
I
also
privileged?
a person of color.
I'm a person
A
of
person of
color.
color.
I know, but you
So how
show
is
up
that
differently than I do.
How?
But you
But what-
presenting
Your mask?
masculine has no effect on that.
So since you
And being black.
I am also black. So what? I'm black and Hispanic. So what?
Me too.
What laws are different for you? I would like to
Okay,
know.
well, if you want to talk afterward, I got you.
Okay.
I am
This is what happens. People get like, there's this fear that is just embedded into people's brains without even knowing why they fear said thing. And all they know is that I'm afraid because I've been told to be afraid. And that is the biggest way the left emotionally captures people. To be fair, the right does it as well with people like Trump and Vivek. The fear. But at the very least, I would say the people on the right, when they have that same type of situation, they can kind of explain things a little bit more deliberately.
on the board of Lambda Legal. We're fighting these 650 plus anti-LGBTQ bills. I have a list for you. Also, there's so many documentaries. The thing is, I think what you want to just battle with me instead of understanding that we just live differently. Our experiences are different.
That
That doesn't
All I'm
mean
asking y'all to
anything.
do is understand that.
We're trying
I'm
to
not trying to
understand.
take away from
No, absolutely
you and
not.
whatever, but being able to be in that mindset without
You're trying to tell
understanding
them,
somebody
shut
else's
up.
experience is
Oh,
privilege.
shut up.
That's
You're
what
telling
I'm
them to shut up.
trying to
You're
say.
just
If I
saying
could butt
you
in
don't know
real
what you're
quick,
talking about. So shut
I
up.
want to go back to what, earlier you guys were saying, kind of the LGB, blah, blah, blah. That's also not caring about the rest of the humans that self-identify as those people. We want to respect those people. Even if we don't agree with them, we're still going to respect them no matter what. I may not agree with you guys, but I'm still going to respect you and what you self-identify as, which hopefully you will do the same to us, which is what you're saying, that the left is becoming right. That makes no sense because we're trying to advocate for the change. The right is advocating for keeping things the way they are.
Why we're running into all of these anti-LGBTQ legislation, as you put it, is because things have gone so far liberal that now we're facing this backlash from the traditional ultra-right community, which is why all of these bills are coming up, which is endangering our community as a whole. And I think that that is the basis of this. We have gone too far this way, and now this side is coming back to fight us.
I think there has been a lot of progress in the last few
I agree.
years.
A lot of
the
progress.
Decades, and
I
there
agree.
is definitely a backlash from the far right because of that. But I don't think the solution to that is to say, oh, let's go back and be less progressive. I think we just need to carry on, and there will be backlash, but eventually those people will just get used to it. But I think it is a shame to be so divided. Because
You need to
it
have
can't be
more
good
logical
for
understanding of the things that
community.
you try to enforce
And we also
or
have to take accountability
pass.
for our own community. Like, we aren't above anybody else. We need to take accountability and call out when it happens. We can't sit here and just be like, oh, poor me, our community, everyone hates us. Like, what are we doing?
Why are we bringing that to
these laws
ourselves?
coming up? So most of the laws that are coming up, and the reason why acceptance of us has gone down is
Women and children are being targeted.
when you
That's
attack-
it. Don't
if
mess
you
with the
attack
women and children.
women and children, that's not an attack against our community. That's people defending their group of people. You come for someone's kids, there's going to be lots of laws, and I hope that there would. Sorry, you come from women's spaces, I hope those women there's going to be laws. It's not an attack on us. It's an attack on these things happening and why our acceptance is going down so much.
And I think like at any point, or at any point in history, something was once considered like too progressive, too radical, and so like in this
Another Cope statement. Another Cope statement. One of the things that people on the left they try to do is saying, oh, before, now. That actually hurts your argument. That doesn't help your argument as much as you think. Now, this helps your space right now because everybody here is lesbian and they want lesbian rights. In totality, that doesn't. Because what's going to happen are people going to go like, oh, you're right. Maybe we shouldn't have done the feminist movement. maybe we shouldn't have done the women's rights movement. Maybe we shouldn't have done gay marriage. Maybe we shouldn't have done civil rights. That's what's going to happen. So what you're doing now does not help your case, because at the bare minimum, I can logically argue why everything that we've had up until now has been the betterment of society as a whole. There's nothing that, or a lot of the more recent stuff regarding the LGBTQ, I don't see a good argument, a supported argument, an argument surrounded with scientific evidence, or morally a good argument of some of the activities going on with the LGBTQ community and what they're trying to push. So I think that's very important in this conversation.
Moment, like you believe that, which is why I believe that like I'm so progressive, because in this moment, like this may seem too progressive or too radical or too out there, and in 20 years from now, like maybe, you know, we'll be saying like, oh my gosh, our kids, they're so left and they're so progressive and they're so radical, and like we'll feel like they're taking that charge and like they're pushing for. And so like, but like, you know, at a time like wearing pants was so radical and like you're all wearing pants except for me, like at a time like that would have been insane, right? But like at this moment in time, like, you know, you're sitting there saying that we're being too progressive.
Because if we go by her logic, I'm sorry, because this is not a good point. The people who want to create maps, the pedophiles, the people who want to identify as animals, what if we just keep on going? Keep on going. Then, and that is normalized. That hurts your argument. People don't want these people to exist. Just saying.
Like too radical, but like there was a point in time when what you're all doing, what you're all wearing, what you're all saying would have been too progressive or too radical.
I feel like comparing what somebody's wearing to transitioning kids,
harming children,
is a big,
How's it
big
harming?
leap.
I was just
We
making
can get
an
into that in a
No,
sec,
of course,
but the
I'm
point
not
is,
attacking
like,
you.
although you guys are saying, oh, be progressive, be open to everybody, let anything happen, anything goes. It's like when kids are, well, that's kind of what she just said. Things are constantly changing. We're going to look back and
There
think,
has to be gatekeeping.
There has to be. There's kids being harmed right now. There are
How
children,
are they being harmed?
There are children committing suicide and removing body parts at minors, as minors.
I'm gonna let this go because I don't want to have the trans conversation. Let's move on to the next one. Very curious.
Hey guys, it's Paris, the new creative director of the Grey Goose Classic Martini Cocktail. There are so many questions before we get to garnishes. Do you shake or stir? What's the right balance of vermouth?
Hey, Paris.
For the enjoy the.
I don't understand how a lesbian can be conservative.
Cute.
I think that was a huge question that I really did have going into this, because like I said earlier, conservatism itself is keeping things the way that it is. Through the experiences that I have had, that my girlfriend has had, that we all have had. I don't like how it is right now. I would love to progress forward. Again, as a non-binary lesbian,
Sounds a little bit privileged. You don't like how it is right now? Like, it's better than it's ever been in the past. What? I don't. Okay.
Progressing forward.
Yeah, the right has famously been always against the LGBT community, and always, especially in the past, has always fought against equal marriage and everything. So it surprises me to see that they're.
Well, that's not conservatives nowadays.
As conservative. I think it's fine for people to have their political opinions that are not attached to their sexuality, of course. But at the same time, for me, it's hard to support a party that has always been historically against us.
And like being conservative and like being Republican, I think, are also two separate things. And like being conservative, like.
Weren't the Democrats like really racist back in the day? That's why, like, these arguments that they use are just not good ones, right? They're just not good. That's why it always seems like I'm against the left, because they don't use good arguments. What they say is not a good point to You're saying, okay, the past is why I don't like you now, and I'll never be with you guys, so I'll always believe in my side. I think it requires a little bit more critical
truly
thinking
is about
than that.
like, you know, staying where you are or like keeping things similar. Whereas like progressives like want to progress and like move things forward, and like people are Republican for all kinds of reasons. But I think that it is interesting that people can be in the queer community and not be interested in progress and change, like especially as like so many conservatives have been so anti-LGBT for a very long time.
Yeah, I agree. I say the same. I think there's a difference between moderate and conservative and, you know, just wanting to live your life a certain way, because I know a lot of, I would say, more moderate lesbians that don't want to partake in the prides and do things like that. They just want to live their life with their wife and their kids, and that's very different because nowadays conservative is combined now with Republican in my eyes. And so when you're a Republican lesbian, you're against our community moving forward and progressing, and you're also aligning with the oppressor. Mm-hmm. And so that's why I have a hard time understanding queers being conservative / Republican, because you're aligning with the oppressor and not going against.
I wonder what I got a question. Like, in terms of progression for the lesbian community, what else do you need? You can get married. You can do everything a man can do. What do you need? What exactly do you need more that the lesbian community doesn't have right now? I think that's always should be like on top of your mind. What exactly am I progressing to? Or am I just advocating to advocate? I'm curious. I'm curious to hear some.
Like, not everyone's going to feel like as left-leaning as I am, and like not maybe people are more left-leaning than me. I don't know, maybe somewhere. But I think that like that's like what's so important, that like we're all like working towards like making sure that people are equal and like feeling supported and like can feel affirmed in their identity and their gender and their sexuality. And I think that conservatives are actively, I think, work against that. I think that's where it's confusing that people who are queer can be conservative.
What don't you have that you need to progress further to get besides acceptance? Because that
She literally asked the question that I just said. Okay, I'm very curious to hear.
Equality.
But what's not equal?
I'm going to say queer in general, the community don't have protections in certain areas, like where you live. You can't adopt, or you can get fired on the basis of your.
She changed the. Okay, I'm gonna only care about the lesbian side because this is the conversation. She said lesbians can't adopt. If that's true, I don't know if it is. If that's true, okay, good thing to advocate for. I can't. I have no idea if that's true or not.
Don't have protections in
the protections is bullshit.
Where you live.
I don't agree with that.
Or you
adopt is interesting.
On the basis of
I don't agree with the fire thing. There's no job that's firing you because you're a lesbian. That's a lie.
To protect that, but if it's still happening,
the adoption one is interesting. I might be inclined to.
We need to progress to make our life and our lifestyle a norm so that we don't have to face discrimination. I mean, West Hollywood in LA is supposed to be a gay haven. And
what does that mean?
I, as a person that has hosted parties there and been a promoter there for 11 years and know the owners still face discrimination almost every single time I go there because there's discrimination within our community. And so now
what does that mean?
As a commissioner, I'm working on.
People have preferences and everything on whether or not they want to work with certain people, but okay. That's just the industry. Okay.
That because we have to fight it even in this city that everyone thinks that everyone's accepted. So can you
everyone is not accepted. Not even all white people are accepted. All white men are not accepted. All black men are not accepted. What are we talking about?
That look like us.
Right. Well, I just don't see what laws, politically wise, would stop people from being discriminated. Like, people are that way. There's always going to be people who are racist, who are transphobic, homophobic. What laws, I guess, what rights do we not have? We can adopt.
Well, there are many countries where just being gay is
that
This
I
is-
punishable
understand.
by
Right.
death
In
death
other
penalty.
countries, of course. I was just referring to the United States, but yeah, I totally agree on that. Other countries, absolutely, they need to do something about that. But here, I just don't. Any lesbian couple can get married, have a kid, adopt a kid, have all
No,
those.
but
rights
I'm
and
saying that
just
because you said, why do you still need to move forward? Why do you feel the need to progress? And I think it's because developed countries are leading the way in general for the whole
well,
LGBT
acceptance has
community.
gone down now.
Thinking about when you say people.
Yeah,
are
because
gonna be,
you're going too far.
transphobic,
I would have been with
that's
you
why
if
we want
y'all.
to progress, because
Of course.
hopefully one day, and even if it is 300 years from now, we don't want that to happen.
Of course.
So-
why is acceptance going down?
Yeah.
Acceptance is going down. It's statistically, the acceptance, straight people and anyone it's lowering. Why is that? If we're so progressive, why is it lowering? Because we're going too far over.
Real quick, I'm busy doing everything. I know you're busy, but sorry about that. You can use.
We are now attacking children's and women's spaces.
I'm going to jump in right here because we're not just looking at social issues whenever we're talking about conservatism versus leftism or right versus left. Yeah, social issues are absolutely a part of it. But then we're also looking at, okay, how are we taxed? How is the government spending our money? How much of our tax dollars are going overseas? How are our schools being run? How are our children being taken care of? Do you have a nice library in your town that you can visit? All of that can be traced back to your political leaning. And I think it's very important to understand my sexuality has nothing to do with the way I think the government should spend our taxes.
I can understand like a lesbian being a Republican. I can understand like a lesbian like voting for a Republican. Like if that's your perspective on like on whatever else, and maybe that's it's your own prerogative who you want to vote for. It's not like we have whatever all these choices. But I think that when we're talking about like being progressive versus being conservative, literally you want progress or you want to conserve the past.
What needs to be progressed?
Like
in our
acceptance.
community.
Like there's so much prejudice.
But no
prejudice
law
towards
is going
trans
to
people.
change that. Whether you're Republican or liberal, that's not going to. A law is not going to
We
change
think about
that.
social movements and social issues across the board. We think about the acceptance of Black people, of gay people. Like we think about how progressive movements have made us more comfortable in our identities in social spaces.
But I think that's the biggest thing in this conversation. If you want to increase the normalcy of being lesbian in the community, that's fine. But that's not what's going on. Like someone said earlier, the reason why the LGBTQ is getting so much pushback is going a step further. You're going a step further than that. And then it's like, what the F? What the F? So you're not doing what you're saying. You're doing more than what you're saying. So let's be clear.
But there are movements that has nothing to do with politics.
Can I give you an example of the racial divide in this country, right? Laws were put into place so African Americans can vote and be equal humans, right?
Right.
And I do not think that those protections put in place allowed African Americans to be more accepted as time went on.
Lesbians can vote. What?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Yes. Absolutely.
Yes.
You say no?
No, I'm processing it.
Yes,
yeah,
I think
I'm
you're
like
right.
thinking
But
that.
Same thing.
I don't completely agree, though. I think saying
but
that,
there's still
that
racist people today, so that
Right.
didn't fix it.
But they can't
It went
come
down.
for us. Yeah, it normal.
They can't come for lesbian people either. What are we saying? What are we saying? What are we talking about? I don't know.
And brought people together, and not to see the racial divide as inhumane, or you're not a human because you're African.
Nobody does that for lesbian people today, though.
What we're
Well,
asking is
I'm not gonna say nobody.
equality, so that
Politically, nobody
us
does
as
that.
humans are able
Really.
to exist like
I don't
everyone
think.
else. And
I agree. There's always going to be homophobic, sexist,
there's
racist, all
an
that
equal
good
ground here.
crazy stuff.
Just respect, and that's why I'm saying is it's very necessary to put these protections in place so we can live like everyone else.
But we do live like everybody else. There's I don't.
You being able to say that is privilege.
Absolutely.
No, I'm not trying to come for you. It is.
People are homophobic to me too, but it doesn't affect my life.
I
don't let that.
Yeah,
I didn't say that.
No. It's a privilege to not understand everyone.
Bro, stop using privilege just because you're not winning an argument.
Well, yours is different than hers, and hers, and hers,
That's
right?
exactly what my point was.
So how can you tell me I'm privileged? How can you
feel safe?
How can you tell me I'm privileged?
I live
when
in Florida
everyone
and I
has
feel very safe.
You show up differently than I do.
Very
I show up.
Very differently than I do.
There's more Hispanic
wanted
people
to.
in Florida than there
Yeah.
probably are in California, actually.
What does that have to do
That has
with me?
nothing
That's what you're talking about. Is that not what you're talking about? You're talking
No,
about
you
race
can
relations.
walk down the street in Florida and be cool.
Because I'm femme, because I'm not like 100% like where's the
I think that
dividing
we
line
should take a
talking
trip
about?
to Florida and see what it's really like. 'Cause
Yeah.
what you hear and what
I
you
host in
experience
Florida
is
all the
different.
time, but
Okay, then is
It's
anything
fine.
ever happen in Florida?
those are very protected spaces that I'm in. And
Oh,
then when
well,
I do travel around, yes, I've gotten death threats. I've had to shut down events that I've done. I've had, people name me by telling me to pick out a coffin. Tell
That's
me I'm gonna
obviously
be
not
the-
okay.
But
Yeah,
then
I mean,
those people
it's
are in
obviously
power,
not
is
okay.
what we're kind of, sorry to cut you off, but those people are in power now.
Yeah.
Those people are deciding the future of our country.
Wait, what? How do you know that? You're grasping on her negative situations and applying that to something you don't know anything about. Like, what? There are going to be terrible people. There are terrible people that live in this country. You're not going to make them respect you just by a movement. Well, I don't agree with that. I'm gonna take that back. I don't agree with that. I think you can make them respect you from a movement. I think the problem is that the way y'all are going about the social normalcy from these people is wrong, I think. But in terms of protection, politics, all that stuff, y'all have everything. You have everything. To create a less prejudiced society in general, that's going to take something a little bit different. But you have everything you need. I don't know.
And that,
Democrats?
No, those people that are hateful, that are homophobic, that are transphobic, unfortunately, those people are becoming in power. We're not saying that these exact laws need to be put into place. We're saying now people that are following these people of authority and, are really listening into it, and now these are the only thoughts that they're thinking of. There's no one in place of a power really right now that are pushing for the progression.
I'm not a
What?
conservative because I'm a lesbian. I'm not a lesbian because I'm a conservative. I'm a conservative because I agree with more than 51% of the conservative beliefs. Amen. I don't even agree with 100% of the conservative beliefs. I might even hold more liberal views on certain individual topics than maybe even some of you. It's simply race, sexual orientation, disabilities. None of that puts people in a liberal, conservative, or a middle box. And I think most of our disagreements today are simply just because of language. My version of woman, her version of woman, your version of woman are all different. Our versions of conservatives and your versions of conservatives are completely
That's why I said it was
different.
important.
Yeah.
What does this word mean to us? What does woman
Exactly.
mean? What does conservatism mean? What does liberal
Yeah.
mean? Because by definition, by
Yes.
the old school definition, I am a liberal.
Yes.
I am pro freedom of speech, pro equal rights,
Yeah.
pro capitalism, pro free markets. Like that is a liberal.
Yeah, I think it's just the language is completely evolving, and would I agree with conservatives 20 years ago?
No.
Probably not.
Yeah. Of course.
But
So that's
language,
progression right there,
fluidity,
too.
everything is
Yes.
just
It's
constantly
progressed in
moving,
our own
and
way.
we just have to live within our current reality. We can't compare.
I'm gonna let her
we can't
finish, of
compare
course.
Any of us to conservatives 20 years ago, just like we can't compare you guys to liberals 20 years ago.
Spitting. That's all I got for that. If you want to watch a full Jubilee video, make sure to check out Jubilee. If it was lagging, I do apologize. It is what it is. But very interesting conversation, of course. So with that said, I hope you guys enjoyed. Like and subscribe. Make sure you guys check out the website, www.purplepoliticalbreakdown.com. Have a good one. Take care and peace.